You ever stop and wonder why buying a cup of coffee feels one way, but paying your internet bill feels totally different? Well, the answer is kind of hiding in plain sight, in what economists call market structures. They're like the secret rules of the game for almost every dollar you spend. So, let's pull back the curtain and see how it all works.
I mean, really think about it for a second. When you're buying an Apple, you might have multiple vendors to choose from. Maybe you can even haggle a bit. But your electricity bill, that comes from one company, and the price is the price. This isn't just random. It's because those are two fundamentally different types of markets, and we're about to unpack exactly why.
So first things first, what even is a market in economics? It's not necessarily a physical building. As the economist Augustin Cournot explained it way back when, a market is really any system where buyers and sellers are connected, and because of that connection, the prices for the same things start to even out. It's all about the network, not the location. And for that network to actually function as a market, you really need these 5 key things. You obviously need people who want to buy and people who want to sell. You need to think, a product or a service to trade. There has to be a price, some way for everyone to connect, and crucially, enough information so that people can make smart decisions. Simple enough, right? All right, now economists love to sort things into neat little boxes. The first way they do this with markets is by looking at 2 really basic ideas, place and time. This just helps set the stage before we dive into the really juicy stuff, which is all about competition. So a market can be local. Think about perishable stuff like fresh fish or vegetables at your neighborhood market. It can be national or even international, like the market for crude oil. And time is another big factor. You can have a very short period market where the supply is totally fixed, like concert tickets for tonight's show. Or you can have a very long period where companies have ages to build new factories and completely change their supply. These are just the basic building blocks. Okay, with those basics down, let's start with a concept that's, well, perfect. It's a theoretical ideal that economists came up with to use as a kind of measuring stick for everything else. It's called perfect competition. And I really have to stress this part. This is an imaginary idea, a purely theoretical model. You will not find a perfectly competitive market anywhere in the real world. But it's super useful because it helps us understand the raw power of supply and demand without any other real-world complications getting in the way. So what would this perfect world look like? Well, you'd need a ton of buyers and sellers, so many that no single person or company has any power at all. The product would have to be completely identical, no matter who's selling it. Think of something like a specific grade of wheat. Anyone could start or stop selling it whenever they want, everyone would know everything about the product and its price, and the government would stay completely out of it. In a market like this, sellers don't get to choose their price. They are simply price takers. So if nobody sets the price, how does it get determined? It's like a beautiful dance. Look here. If the price is low, say 100 rupees, everybody wants to buy. But at that price, not many farmers want to sell. Now, jack the price up to 500. Suddenly, farmers are thrilled to sell, but buyers are like, no thanks. The magic, the equilibrium, happens right there at 300 rupees. That's the sweet spot where the exact amount people want to buy is the exact amount people want to sell. The famous economist Alfred Marshall had this absolutely perfect analogy for this. He said that trying to figure out if demand or supply sets the price is like arguing over which blade of a pair of scissors does the cutting. It's a silly question. You need both. And this chart shows that idea perfectly. You've got the demand curve sloping down. The lower the price, the more people want. And you've got the supply curve sloping up. The higher the price, the more people want to sell. And that single point right there in the middle where they cross, that's our equilibrium. That's where both blades of the scissors meet to make the cut.
Okay, so that was the fairy tale world of perfect competition. But we don't live there. So let's leave theoryland and get back to the real world, the complex, sometimes messy, and way more interesting world of imperfect markets.
And we're going to start at the complete opposite end of the spectrum, with monopoly. The name tells you everything you need to know. It comes right from the Greek words for single seller. This is a market where one and only one firm is in charge of the entire supply of a product that has no good alternatives. Now, what gives a monopoly its incredible power? Well, it's a few key things. There's only one seller. There are no close substitutes. So as a buyer, you have nowhere else to go. And there are massive barriers that make it nearly impossible for anyone else to jump in and compete. Because they have total control over supply, a monopoly isn't a price taker. Oh no, they are a price maker. Putting them side by side like this just makes it crystal clear, doesn't it? Perfect competition is all about having tons of sellers with identical stuff. Monopoly is one seller with a one-of-a-kind product. One has total freedom for anyone to join in.
The other has massive walls keeping people out. One has to accept the market price, and the other gets to make the market price.
But let's be honest, most real-world markets aren't one of these extremes. They're usually somewhere in the middle. And a huge one you see all the time is an oligopoly. Again, from the Greek, this time for few sellers. This is when a handful of big companies dominate the whole market. Think mobile phone carriers, big airlines, or car manufacturers.
The absolute defining feature of an oligopoly is this idea of interdependence. It's like a constant, high-stakes game of chess. If one airline lowers its prices for summer flights, you can bet the others are going to react within hours. They have to. They are all linked. And that intense rivalry is why advertising is such a gigantic part of their strategy.
Okay, just look at this picture for a second. All these bottles are detergents. They all basically do the same job, right? Get your clothes clean, but each one is trying so hard to convince you that it's unique, that it's different. This image is the perfect intro to our next market type.
And that market is called monopolistic competition. Now this one's a bit of a hybrid. It has lots of sellers, kind of like perfect competition, but, and this is the key, each one sells a product that's slightly different from the others. That difference could be branding, packaging, a special ingredient, whatever. Think about restaurants, coffee shops, or yeah, all those detergents we just saw.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. This can get a little confusing. Both seem to involve a lot of competition and advertising. So what is the real difference between a market with a few big players and one with many players selling slightly different stuff? It's a great question, so let's break it down.
Here's the cheat sheet. The biggest difference is the number of firms. Oligopoly has just a few. Monopolistic competition has a lot. In an oligopoly, the key word is interdependence. They're all watching each other like hawks. In monopolistic competition, the key is product differentiation, making your brand stand out from the crowd. And as you can see, both of them end up spending a ton of money on advertising to win you over.
So, we've gone on this whole journey from a perfect, imaginary market all the way to the messy, complicated ones we deal with every day. What's the point? What's the big payoff? Why should you care about any of this?
You should care because the structure of every single market you interact with, from the gas station to the grocery store to your streaming services, has a direct impact on the prices you pay, the number of choices on the shelf, and the constant stream of advertising that you see. Understanding this stuff gives you a kind of X-ray vision into the economic world all around you.
So I'll leave you with a challenge. The next time you go to buy something, anything at all, just take a second and ask yourself, what kind of market is this? Is it a monopoly, an oligopoly, something else? And in this particular transaction, who really holds the power here? You might be surprised by what you see.